I'm Dave Magnani. I was in Sierra Leone from 1968 to 1971. Probably the most indelible for me was early after I got there. I had been through my language training program and I was going up country, and I was trying to find my village. I hadn't been there before, and this old gentleman was coming in this direction. I was going in that direction. And I just said, Pa, how do I find Bo? And I said it in Creole, which was our language, and he just looked at me. And I knew I was saying it correctly. I said, Pa, I defend Bo. I'm looking for Bo. And he just looked at me, didn't say a word. Then I realized what I was doing wrong. And I said, Morning, Pa. How do you fumble, Pa? I like your sandals, Pa. Beautiful day, but oh, by the way, I'm trying to get to my village in Bo. Can you help me? And immediately this smile came over his face, and he looked at me, and he turned around and he put his arm out, and he actually went with me for almost 2 miles to find Bo with me. And I learned a very powerful lesson about Africa and about African people, something we can learn in the United States, which is that people come first. The basic fundamental lesson that people come first. And I never forgot it and felt that it was the kind of thing that if we could come home, you know, the old idea, you go and learn, you go and teach, come home and teach. If we could come home and teach that example, then it really will have been an exchange program. And so I feel blessed by that experience.
Love it.
My name is Phil Anderson. I worked in Sierra Leone 1969 and 1970. I was in agriculture and I really loved it. I lived in a small town on the Great Scarces River across from Guinea in Mambolo. And one of the things I worked at was, of course, rice development, and there was a Chinese mission there from Taiwan, and they provided me a lot of technical assistance, and so we were able to do a lot of new experimentation. The farmers really enjoyed it in terms of learning new techniques and, of course, getting new species of rice. So that was a delightful experience.
Emily Coble. I served in Sierra Leone from 1974 to 1976. But before I went to Africa, I was a teacher. I taught while I was there, and when I came home, I became ultimately an ESL teacher, and all of that was influenced, Helene, because of my experience in West Africa as a Peace Corps volunteer. I have others.
My name is Harma Stahl Yohalam, and I was in Sierra Leone from 1978 to 1980, 80 and a half a year or more. And my late husband was David Yohalam. He was the Peace Corps director for Sierra Leone for all the ag volunteers.
Peggy Murrah. I was Peace Corps volunteer in Sierra Leone, West Africa from 1978 to 1980. I was a primary teacher trainer, which meant that I went out to bush schools and also some schools in the larger villages and worked with but I'd been in my house for a little while, and one day the truck pulled up, and it was the parish priest, Irish priest, Holy Ghost Father, Father Reedy. And he said he wanted me to meet someone. So I went walking out thinking we'd get in his truck to go, and instead we walked literally one house away. My next door neighbor was called John the Baptist because he ran a bar at one point called the River Jordan. So that was John the Baptist. It was the other side of John the Baptist house. And I went, and there was like this little one-room mud, typical African mud, thatched roof, hole for a door, hole for a window behind the main house, which was cement block and zinc pan, but typical house for Sierra Leone too. And walked in the door, and there was a real small room. There was a straw mattress bed in the room, and that was about it. And lying in that bed was a young man who, I sometimes even tear up still now thinking about it, looked like he should have been dead for a while. He honest to God, looked like a Holocaust victim. He was so emaciated and sickly. His color was really, really off. And when I hit the door with the priest, he smiled. And when he smiled, you realize nobody's told this kid that he should not be smiling, because he doesn't have anything to smile about. I mean, he, in his mind, had a lot to smile about. So that started our friendship. His name was Emmanuel. See, I tell you, I get goosebumps even now. We are still friends. In fact, I talked to him yesterday. He takes care of all my business in Sierra Leone, and I go back about once a year. He'd gotten sick 7 years before then, and they thought he was going to die. Real smart in school, good kid. Teachers all liked him. He did well in school. He did well in sports. Get sick. He didn't die, but he came out of whatever it was severely crippled, and he had apparently lain in one position for so long that he now has a leg that's cocked up and can't be straightened out. We've sent him to doctors. He's seen doctors in the UK, so I mean, we've covered all that. But he did live, and became, because of Father Reedy, he and I became friends. He had younger brothers, and they would literally carry him to my house. It wasn't very far, but still he had to be carried. Set him on my veranda, and we would visit. Well, July 17th, 1979, when I'd been there a little over a year, two friends of mine made him a wheelchair out of a chair and some borrowed motorcycle parts, wheels from the Peace Corps office of junked motorcycles, and presented it to him. He calls it his second birthday. I went home the following Christmas, and a friend of my mother's sent him a manual typewriter. He learned typing skills. He went on to work for CARE. He worked for the Bo Pujahun Project, which was a big project that went on in Sierra Leone, aid work. He ended up running the Milton Margai Cheshire Home for Crippled Children. He had always wanted to open his own technical school, so he did that. Now you got to remember, there was a war in there.